We have some speakers that are virtual this evening. So they will be the first to speak just because it makes things easier to do it that way. And I'll refer to my little chart here for who they are. I think everyone knows who I am. You people on the screen, it doesn't matter, but it doesn't really matter. But my name is Malina. I've lived a long time in Lytton and I've been involved with FireSmart for quite some time now. And tonight I am the MC for this event. So our presenters first are from BFL Canada. And we have Rick Adam and Anne-Marie Garvey and Judy Tam. Is that correct? Yeah, give me a little wave so I know that I got all right. Yeah, we're good enough? Okay, my understanding is that you are going first and that there's also John Hastings from Aviva. Is that right? Hi, John. All right, so everyone can see and hear. And I'll put down this microphone and let you speak. I think we wanted to have an opportunity for questions after you're done your presentation. And I will help with that with this microphone. So go ahead, who's going first?
Were there slides?
Hey, Rick, go ahead.
I'm just gonna, I thought there was a slide deck, but let me see if I can. Yeah, that doesn't matter. Yeah, I can go first. Hello, everybody. I'm Rick Adam. I'm an engineer, risk control engineer for BFL Canada. I guess best place to start is how I fit into the insurance buying process. So for the most part, the job that I have is in insurance, but not in insurance, in that I spend the majority of my time out in the field actually looking at properties that are looking for insurance or have insurance and are looking for improved risk rating. So we come up with recommendations for them to improve their risk with protection methods. And the other half of my job is to tell a story about an insured client so that they can get into the insurance market or receive more favorable terms and pricing. And in that capacity, I'm here to answer questions about physical risk improvement. I'm going forward and related to construction, sprinklers, smoke detectors, all that type of stuff. Judy, do you want to say a few words about broking?
Sure. Judy Tam. I work for BFL Canada and as an insurance broker for the Indigenous program. So basically, my main job is I'm the intermediary between the you guys and the insurance company, basically taking all the underwriting information like your house information and your contents and the building limit, and basically go to the insurance company, see if I can find coverage at a competitive pricing for you folks.
Good evening, good afternoon. My name is John Hastings, and I'm coming to you from the traditional territory of the Wendat, Anishinaabe, and Mississaugas here in Ontario. And my job is leading an underwriting division, particularly commercial insurance. So in context to the conversation today, I can speak to you about the kind of things that how we interpret what Judy and Rick would present to us from an underwriting perspective, and in a macro sense, how we choose to accept risk and provide insurance. So, there's the slides. That's good, and give you some idea on how we arrive at our decision making and our pricing. So I guess, do you want me to kick off here, Judy and Rick, in terms of underwriting information, risk mitigation? I suppose the biggest thing is when we spoke to Patrick earlier this week or last week rather, the there were a couple key considerations that you guys wanted us to touch on. So maybe we start there to drive the conversation a little bit and steer us to what information you'd like us to talk about tonight. The four key pieces here, I think I can take. Well, why don't we start with right from the start of the process? I think that would be, from the moment that Rick or your broker, Anne-Marie, who isn't here tonight, would come and meet with you guys where you are in Lytton and the surrounding area, and what type of information they'd be looking for as you seek out insurance. So, Rick, do you want to take a shot at that from underwriting information and risk mitigation, and then we'll go from
Yeah,
there.
sure. So the collection of the information that's necessary for John and underwriters to do their job includes all of the relevant construction information. There's a very gentle acronym in our industry that's COPE, and it's construction, occupancy, protection, and exposures. And what that really boils down to is the construction, like what type of methods are used, what kind of materials are used. Obviously, certain materials do better in fire than others. Occupancy is what the buildings are used for, and that, for example, high-rise office buildings are a lot less risky than, steel mills or sawmills. And then protection relates to all of those physical and procedural things that you do to protect buildings, sprinklers and emergency response plans and that. And then exposures is a big one. So, and that's getting a lot more attention in the last few years. So things like the wildfire. We've got, of course, people from Finesse, I think, that are on this call that can talk about that incredibly well. But all of these exposures, they try to quantify them, like what your probabilities of being involved in a flood or a wildfire are. And then all this information gets digested down and it gets passed up to Judy, who tries to negotiate a deal with one or even multiple insurance carriers. And that's kind of where it's kind of where you guys jump in and tell a little bit of the story about how you guys do your back and forth.
Yeah. Well, we would receive information from a broker like Judy, and Judy's one of the best in the business to negotiate and get an outcome for her customers. I guess it's tricky. Aviva didn't have a great deal of exposure in the Lytton fires from years ago. Well, I can't speak for the entire industry at large. What I can say is that I think one of the major anxieties was that we heard from Patrick was the availability and the affordability of insurance. I'm sorry, I didn't catch the name of our host this evening. Maybe can you validate that question with the audience, and then maybe we could go right to the heart of what Patrick wanted us to touch on tonight. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
So what he's asking us, I can speak loud enough, is if you want more information about the availability and the cost of insurance going forward, correct?
And that's right. And I suppose maybe elaborate a bit more on what the communities have experienced since the fire, and why that question is front and center tonight.
So if there's people here tonight that have tried to get insurance that have had any kind of difficulty, then you can kind of put your hand up and we can have you speak about that experience. If you're afraid that you will have a problem getting insurance, then you can put your hand up and you can say that. So we're looking for right now for people just to say what your concerns or experiences are with insurance for your home since the fire. Right?
Yeah, and then we can get some context and then see where we go from hearing from the community.
I think I'm loud enough. Yeah, I'm Max Arcan. For those of you that don't know me, I work for BC Wildfire, and recently purchased a home just up on Loring Way. And when I was trying to get insurance last winter, I was kind of going with this. Obviously, I've been a BCAA member for many years for my vehicle and stuff like that. And then I just said, oh, I'll just call them and it'll be easy. And then all of a sudden, it wasn't so easy. And I had to kind of do a bit of a runaround and ask a bunch of different companies, like, hey, can I get insurance? And some of them were leery because of the property itself, but some of them were also just leery because it was Lytton. And so BCA said no right away because they said we no longer take on new clients in the Lytton area. So I was like, oh, okay, well, that's a little bit, like, I've been paying BCA membership dues for 10 years, and you're just gonna say no because of Lytton? So that was my experience. Again, very particular to my situation with the questionable house as well as an area being violent.
Did you hear that?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did and just to clarify, that was recently, that was in the last 12, 24 months, or was it right after the
Recently, within the last year.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think as I said, I can't speak for the entire industry. I can speak for Aviva in this context. Insurance companies have to look at the history of what's occurred and then make decisions on how what their appetite for risk is in various jurisdictions and for various exposures, as Rick pointed out. I'm not entirely sure how BCA came to their, well, I have no standing on what BCA's decision making is. From a personal insurance perspective, Aviva does still offer insurance in the entire province of BC. There are some limitations to that, of course. I would have to get a bit more depth on what we are doing from a personal insurance within southeastern BC, where you guys are. I'm not 100% sure. The type of insurance that I offer through BFL is for Indigenous communities, typically, which would be the community assets and community buildings, and any of the habitational buildings that would be on reserve or within the First Nation. So I did hear something off the top about contents insurance, and perhaps in the context of First Nations communities. So I can speak to that a little bit. But broadly across the industry, in terms of availability of insurance, whether it's commercial, personal, things are shifting rapidly, and it's not just from fires in the fire season, although that is one component of it. Extreme weather events, whether it's atmospheric rivers in the south coast of BC, whether it's fires through the traditional fire, the fire season, extending longer and longer from March all the way through to November. I think this past winter, some fires didn't even stop burning; they were burning underground through the entire winter, if I remember correctly. These are all things we're reacting to in real time as insurers, and it's important to be frank that insurance is a private enterprise and it is a for-profit business. So insurers will make decisions looking reflectively at the experiences they've had, and I would suspect that the outcome for the person who asked or shared their experience was based on perhaps the experience that BCA had, and made a choice to restrict the cover they were offering in a particular area, which in this case was Lytton. So it's a very analytical answer. What I can tell you from my perspective, what I'm trying to do in my role as an underwriting leader at Aviva is simply to find the best way to sustainably offer insurance at an affordable price. And we've been working with BFL, with Judy and Rick, and also we just got to know Finesse recently, and learning about what they're doing to support fire mitigation, fire emergency response, and fire hardening of dwellings. And we're going to be participating with them in the coming months and supporting some of the programs they have. I guess the key consideration from my view is to continue to learn and consult and listen to communities to find out what they're doing. I know it seems almost like a fool's errand to do all the work to make your home safer and your community safer, with an expectation there'll be a net benefit on the other side from an insurance company. Oftentimes that happens, but it takes time, and it's not necessarily a dollar for dollar or a direct correlation in terms of availability and pricing. My commitment to particularly the case of First Nations is to support the availability of insurance long term, at a price that makes sense, with a level of coverage that makes individuals and communities whole. That's the ambition, and that's what we're doing at Aviva today. The trick is to keep it sustainable long term as the climate changes and weather events become more extreme. So I'll pause there. Pass to Rick or Judy.
Yeah, sure. So with regards to personal lines insurance for things like house insurance, there's a number of tools that underwriters use to make determinations of risk. Some of them are internal, some of them are external. They make determinations for flood, for fire department response, for wildfire. So any number of those models could have been involved in the decision that BCAA made to decline the opportunity to write that. The thing, fundamentally speaking, that's different in a lot of cases in like a relationship like we have with John is that we would be able to come back with information for him about things that would be not included in those models or those systems, things like fire smarting or different community water systems and all these things. So ultimately, like if you're trying to buy personal lines insurance, you've got to find some way to differentiate yourself if there is a decline in your area. And it was a big problem, in Kelowna during wildfire season, it's hard to get renewals. And that's because there's software that they're using that can track fires in real time so that they're not writing policies in areas where they're basically going to write a policy day one and write a check on day two. Because as John said, they are businesses. They have to operate like businesses and they do have to turn a profit or else that insurance capacity vanishes from the marketplace if they can't make money, right? There's no reason to continue writing it. So in the case of Lytton, for example, with the wildfire losses there, one of the best things you can do is to try to differentiate yourself in that personal lines insurance market is to get a FireSmart assessment done that you can use with whatever broker that you're working with, and that hopefully can try to differentiate yourself to turn a no into a soft yes maybe, or just to in order to get you quotes and do that stuff, because the market will catch up with things that are being done like fire smarting. It just takes time. It just takes time. Judy, anything else?
Well, I did have a few on personal lines on Lytton, but I can get coverage, but it excludes wildfire. That's
Yeah,
the end. Yeah.
yeah, that's a rough exclusion.
So basically, like what Rick said, give me all the like FireSmart certification and all this, so I can go back to the underwriters and basically to see if they can include wildfire.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. That's a tough one to get excluded.
Yeah.
The
It's tough.
other thing I would add as a community, whether in the context to how I arrived at the event tonight, was from a First Nations perspective in the communities, First Nation communities around Lytton. One of the things Rick said or Patrick said to me when I met him on screen last week was how welcoming the community was to the insurance professionals and adjusters that came in after the crisis happened, the fire happened. What I would say is it's what I call the 5 senses of underwriting, and I encourage all of my colleagues and peers to spend as much time seeing the risks that they intend to insure or do insure to get a true understanding of what's happening on the ground. What I heard from Patrick when we spoke was a bit of frustration about the fire hardening and Build Back Better initiatives that Lytton and the surrounding communities did, from hardy board to fire resistant roofing materials, housekeeping and landscaping to better respond to extreme heat and wildfire risk. That's all really great stuff. When it comes to availability and sustainability and cost of insurance, what I would really love or encourage would be those insurance professionals, I think, that showed up on your doorsteps after the incident, after the fire, were those that were meant to live up to the promise of insurance and bring you back whole. I think where insurance companies miss the mark, which we could do more of, is come see your communities when there is no crisis, when there is no fire, when we can see the work you've done firsthand as a community, as individuals. I suppose it's easy to say that tonight, but I think the commitment that you would expect from me is at least the First Nations communities around Lytton, which is where I offer insurance capacity to communities, is to see it firsthand. Oftentimes those connections on a human-to-human level and seeing what investments you guys have made can turn the narrative around in spite of the difficult conditions. Rick, would you agree? Judy, would you agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
That
think you
is-
see insurance companies proactively go out to see their risks, whether it's a home insurance or a community like Lytton, so.
It is tough, and it does change the perception when you come out.
Yeah.
You get to, like you say, 5 sentences. It's hard to perceptualize the risk of something when you haven't ever seen it. It's really tough. So it's all very academic until you actually, get a hat on and some sunscreen on and go for a walk. Right?
Go see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess that's the challenge from an insurance company perspective, is to be available in that way. And that would be what I would encourage the community leaders in Lytton and the First Nations surrounding Lytton to do, is to challenge insurers to come see your community before insurance is actually needed, before a crisis happens. And
take in that information.
Yeah, and I think those insurers that show up in that context would likely leave with a much better impression of the work you've done to protect your communities, and the pride you take in the work that you did to get back to where you are today. And I'd be the first one to accept that invitation if it came, and I'd bring my colleagues with me. So. From that standpoint, that's a good starting point for us as insurers, to get a better understanding of what is actually happening, rather than even just a report or something secondhand.
Spaghetti left there? I don't think I could.
Any more comments or questions, or did that help?
It's not working.
So I'll just say one thing. So it sounds like our friend who has made example of his home, if he were to say to his broker, well, how about you come and actually see my place before we negotiate anything here? That would be kind of the standard that everyone might want to do. Or did you fix it?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't say do it on every individual home or business. What I was getting at was, I think there's an opportunity for your community leaders to invite insurers to your community to see what you've done. Because as I've mentioned, I've heard about the initiatives that you've taken, the advice that you took, the FireSmart protocols and assessments that were done and responded to in some cases. And Lytton, frankly, because of the scale of the devastation, it's sensational. So if you're a guy like me sitting in Ontario, it's hard to conceptualize what happened, 2-3 years after the fire, and why it would be a good risk today. So it's not necessarily house by house, although I suppose if you're a local broker who sees it, can interpret the risk mitigation and the quality of the risk by coming to see it. Most definitely, you'd get a better outcome if you had a broker come to your community to see what's happening, as opposed to phoning a call center and trying to explain it to a person who might not even geographically understand where Lytton is in some cases, right? would only see the context of Lytton from the photographs and the from the time the fire happened, and not what the community looks like today, which I think is an important distinction to make. Pictures tell 1,000 words, but if you see it firsthand and what it looks like today in 2025 or next spring in 2026, it can make a positive impression on an insurer in that case.
Any other, go ahead.
Yes, hello, good evening. My name is Roy Spinks. I'm been on the FireSmart Committee since started in 2016. That's actually when I hired on to Lytton First Nation. So, you know, being from Lytton, more than 4 or 5 times a year, Lytton is the hotspot of Canada. I'm sure you guys must know that, you know. So, you know, living with that kind of heat forever, you know, you realize that, you know, what the risk is of having, you know, great big fields of dry grass in the middle of summer, stuff like that, you know. But, you know, when I think about all the efforts that we put into FireSmart and the number of people that we've have on our committee, you know, we have members from all industries, the volunteer firefighters, the wildfire initial attack crew, the Raptors, you know, I mean, the ambulance responders, and you know, people like that. They're all on. We're all on the same board, sharing ideas. And this was, you know, starting back way back in 2016. I think about, you know, when the home ignition zone assessments, you know, we put a lot of effort into that. We've assessed a lot of homes, and we've had fuel mitigation crews come in and assess them or address the assessments that have been put forward. So we have people that, I mean, it's a nationally, I believe it's a nationally recognized standard to be. Yes, yes. So to have that assessment and then to have the work done to it, and then to still have insurers, you know, come back and say, you know, like when, you know, I said, yeah, I've been paying into BCAA for, I don't know, I mean, it's what I do, but then it's only not just until recently that I actually started buying new vehicles, so trucks, you know, but, you know, you know, to think about, you know, why, you know, like the one person that's mentioned that he's the guy that comes out and, you know, assesses the risk, you know. You know, I think we need more of those kinds of people to actually come to Lytton and take a look at the work that we've done. The homes that we've worked on, we have before and after pictures, you know, and the work is phenomenal. You know, the guys that, you know, the crews that do the work, you know, they're passionate about it, and they're willing to do the work. And it is during the middle of the summer, you know, but we start in the springtime, you know, but they keep working on until the summertime, you know, we're in the heat. You know, and so it's tough to keep putting in funds or applying for funds and getting people to do the work. And, you know, it seems like it's, you know, it's, you know, we do it because basically we have to, we live here.
Right,
Think about, you know, stuff that, you know, I don't like to, I hate bringing it up, you know, but I hate those labels, you know, on reserve, off reserve, village and legend, you know, reserve lands. You know, we're all from Lytton here.
Yeah.
You know, we all have family here, you know, and we want to grow our roots here, have our children go up here. You know, but you know, that's started around my own backside. Shut it down.
Yeah. So I would say about that, about the work that the community does on the fire smarting and on the community fire smart plans, the insurance companies have acknowledged that that work is starting to happen or starting. You guys have been on it for a long time. So they're trying to close that loop, and they have new systems in place where they will be able to get community-based risk assessments and look at things and make a better and more meaningful decision on wildfire risk in the future. And that software that's doing that is brand new this year. So you guys are kind of the tip of the spear in that regard, and that you're way out in front of a lot of places. So like if you do look up Lytton right now, there's no information for the community in that software, and that needs to get populated over time. And that process for getting that information into that system is not clear yet. That's the problem. So, but it is coming. It's coming down the pipe. I mean, something you guys have to do anyway. So hopefully in the fullness of time, you start to get a financial benefit from it on the back end, I guess, would be the insurance, right? But right now, it's just something that has to be done. If you want to be a member of the Lytton community, you can't be planting and drying out cedars all over your property, right? You can't just, you know, there's things you have to do in order to live in that region, and frankly, the system is going to try to take that information in and reward you in the future.
I just wanted, Roy, thanks for your comments. I just wanted to comment on I would not the emotion in your voice, but how I can emphasize how discouraging it must be to do the work and have the pride in your community that you have, and the desire to continue to be a community and raise your family there. I still go back to this idea of insurers being a bit more proactive in visiting communities like Lytton to see the work that's been undertaken, and how, because even as Rick talks about systems and technology and analysis we can do, I still think that the litmus test is for people, human beings, to see with their own eyes, and the work that's been done. And my sense, and I don't know this, is that we, Aviva, nor any other insurer, from an underwriting perspective, maybe have visited your community since the fire. Our claims adjusters collectively have. Your brokers and representatives from a brokerage may have, but I don't know if underwriters, folks like myself. I know I've not been to Lytton for years, not since I was in university out there in BC. Haven't been to Lytton for 25, 30 years, probably was the last time I came through your town. So maybe it's time, and maybe I can encourage some of my peers who could have an impact, come and see your community and what you're building and what you're trying to maintain.
I'll wrap up if there's no other question. I'll wrap up if there's no other question.
There's no other questions. Time's up. Time's up.
Here's the mic, so.
You go ahead and say the mic.
Okay, I got Roger down over there. Pick up, Roger.
I said, in regards to, if I was looking to get health insurance, I did some a year ago. When they find out where I was wrong, they started giving me a checklist of things that they wanted from me. So I'm wondering if we could get something like that for everybody. Once I sent out my information to them, they started asking questions like, how old is my roof? And, you know, these things to them were outdated. And my health it was over 10 years old, so they wanted me to replace that before I could do anything else. And I told them, well, I can't do that right now, but you know, something that I want to do in the future. But since I didn't do it, and since I didn't do the roof, or I didn't do the hot water tank, there wasn't stairs connected to the back door. There was stairs, but it wasn't to the right feet. So all this kind of information, what happened was that since it wasn't done, or since it was outdated, that increased my number for my insurance. And for 1 year, the insurance that was giving me almost $4,500 for the year.
Thanks. So Roger was saying that he has an existing home And you contact your broker, they went through a series of stuff, and by the time they were finished, his premium is now $4,500 for an existing home.
Right.
And that seems high. So what he was wondering about is these checklists, these wonderful checklists that risk assessors and or brokers ask. Is there a standard form thing that can be provided to people who are interested in buying a home or are living in a home or planning to build a home? Is there a list, a generic list that we can at least start looking at? And then Roger then mentions he starts grinding through this list with this broker and all of a sudden say, oh, well, your hot water tank's 5 years old and, that means your premium's going up unless you replace it with new. I don't like the condition of your stairs. Or your roof is 10 years out of 25, and if you change the roof out now, and what happens is that's not words of support and encouragement. That's kicking you dead while you're down.
Mhm.
So how do we find? So one of the things that was on the presentation is, and Judy, I want to specifically ask you this one. There was a line in your thing that says, "Who's telling your story?" Judy, can you elaborate on what your BFO's take on that is? What does that mean?
Basically, let's say with you, I come to you and basically ask questions on your home. Basically your construction, your updating and all that, and all the nice stuff that you have done to your home. So based on that, I'm telling the underwriter the house, the story of your house, what you have done. And basically to see if I can get a quote from the insurance company.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So I wanted to move into next and do my best John Merrick impersonation. Does anybody remember who John Merrick is? No? I am not a transaction. I am a human being. And I mean it. What the problem I have with insurance companies and insurance in general is that they look at us like we're a pariah. We're brothers and sisters in this incredible town and region called Lytton, British Columbia. And we're hearing myth and misinformation. I'm not in leadership, but your MC is. I'm not in leadership, but Jason is probably outside in the snow, probably is, right? And Trisha Thorpe was in the meeting yesterday. They're in leadership. So you ever heard what, in the absence of leadership, by the way, BFL, you are now formally invited to Lytton. Why? Because the village of Lytton, the regional district, and the indigenous communities are inviting you. You will come visit our communities. You will go into our Botany Valley within the regional district. You will come to the parish hall that survived the fire and find out why. Right? You will come and talk to that young man who bought a home and who got screwed over by BCAA because they won't get off their duff. I'm not throwing BCAA or anybody else out there. What we're asking BFL and Aviva and risk assessors to do is tell our story.
Mhm.
Don't treat us as a transaction. We experienced catastrophic loss and we've rebounded, and what we got in return was story we gave at the office. We put in postal code V0K1Z0 and it says do not insure. Well, that is unacceptable. We want BFL and Aviva to lay the bannock slap on the international world. Lloyd's of London, you are showing up and you're buying the bannock. I don't actually, is Lloyd's in London actually in London?
It is in London.
When I sat and smiled, one of the things is this is your opportunity. A mortgage broker, insurance underwriter, and a risk assessor walk into the room and say, what? Lytton deserves to be insured. Insurance is available for you for your existing home. Insurance is available for you for your home new build. But insurance is also available to you as a renter. You probably shouldn't, insure your landlord's house. I'm just saying that there's something called double indemnity, or you can't insure something that you haven't. But you can always insure your fridge. Contents insurance. So really what it comes down to for the three of you is having the courage to stand up for an industry that perceived wide is abandoning Canadians. We're human beings. Come walk a mile in our footsteps. let the insurance policy, let the insurance premiums and remove those exclusions. Most of these families in this room have done their soffits, have changed out their roofs, have put up the mineral board, and if old BCAA said sorry, according to VOK 1Z0, no insurance policies are going to be applied in that 50-kilometer radius. And I want BFL and Aviva to sit down here and tell Lytton's story, because it's the Squillax story. It is the Jasper story. It is the Fort McMurray story. Insert name of community. Somebody hammered it last year and somebody's going to get hammered next year. I also heard, and I'll ask you guys this question, is it hard to get fire insurance when there's actually a wildfire around you? Just curious.
6, so there you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, the answer is yes to that question. Can't insure a burning building, right? So, yeah. But I'm sorry, I didn't get your name off the top, but I will happily accept that invitation and walk a mile in your shoes and get to know personally Lytton's community as it is today and where you want to take it. I can't promise either on behalf of Aviva or the insurance industry writ large what comes next for Lytton. Or communities like you listed, Jasper, Fort Mac, and other communities that have been affected the way you guys have. There's some economics involved, but I think, as I said in my comments before the last speaker, I think you'd agree there's a duty for, as you mentioned, mortgage brokers, insurance professionals, to see what's actually happening on the ground rather than relying on secondhand information. My name's John Hastings. I'm coming to you from Southern Ontario. I've been in BC frequently, and I promise that before the next fire season starts in the spring, I will come to Lytton and I will meet you face to face.
Road trip.
And on that note, I'm going to cut this section of the presentation off because we need to keep moving. There's other people. I'd like to thank you all.
Stay on
So you know who it is.
Yeah,
That was
me too.
Patrick that was talking to you. Pretty sure you know that guy.
Yeah, I saw.
Yeah.
Thanks, Patrick.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you all very much for taking the time tonight, and
Yeah.
that was really helpful. I think it was.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all. My name is Malina Garner. I am Dene Sokhane and English. My Dene side is from Northern Saskatchewan in Treaty 10 territory. I'm a member of Buffalo River Dene Nation. And my English side is from just outside of Birmingham in England, and they came over in the 70s. So they're kind of new. Forgive me, them. They weren't here. They haven't been here long. But I am coming to you from unceded Swapmik territory here just in Kamloops, BC, where I also live, work, and play in unceded Swapmik territory up in Sun Peaks as well. So I'm here to talk to you about what programs we offer both in FireSmart B and in FireSmart BC and in Finesse, because we are partners. We are one of the partner organizations for FireSmart BC. I'll just slide on. There it goes. Before we go too far, FireSmart itself, the logo and the ember, the fox, and all of it, that's owned by CIFC, Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Center. They're the ones that coordinate the international wildfire efforts, and they also run FireSmart across all of Canada. FireSmart BC is just a small part of the whole organization. And then what I'm here to talk to you about is something that's coming into Lytton, the wildfire mitigation program. And it's something that is we're really hoping, and so far it's being really well accepted by insurance companies. We're hoping to get this as the standard in BC that helps people get insurance. I'm actually gonna go out on a limb here and say I'm extremely pleased with what I heard in the honesty from the insurance people who were on before me. I feel like they answered things as well as they knew how to, and were as open as they could be, which I think is very cool. We haven't worked, FireSmart BC hasn't worked with Aviva yet, but Vanessa is just starting our relationship with Aviva, and I'm finding them to be at the very least willing to learn, which is very exciting. But this wildfire mitigation program that I'm going to talk to you guys about, the bones of this came up from America, and I'll kind of touch on to why. And then we in BC have started to take this program, make it our own, and then we're starting to kind of build out with it. The more people and communities and groups of homes that we can get to this standard, the better we're going to be. All right, next one. So that's the logo. New logo, I guess. It's kind of exciting. We used to be the Home Partners Program. So if you've heard of like an advanced assessment, normally it was the Home Partners Program, and it's just become this program in the last year and a half, 2 years. We took it over from FireSmart Canada, and we made it a BC program, and to do that, we changed the name. So you might recognize some people in this photo, and you'll probably recognize Dan the man here on the end. Dan is still the only man on my team. I'm the FireSmart supervisor for Finesse. So he is very literally the man. But he's also, as far as I'm concerned, a very genuinely lovely person. He was just in Lytton doing the WMS course in October, so fairly recently. And yeah, you guys had a fairly good turnout for that, which is exciting. So what we're trying to do by bringing this program in is a number of different pieces. But before the wildfire mitigation program, which if you were to leave BC and go to Alberta is called the Home Partners Program, they are the same thing. Before this came to Canada, there was no standardized system. So when those underwriters talk about like having these set risk lists for like fire and flood and all the rest of that, before now, they didn't really have like a set way to measure wildfire risk. All of the fire risk they had before came from structure fire. So they were worried about fire halls, and they were worried about the time it takes for an engine to get to a building, or how many firefighters and volunteers you have structurally. And nowadays, the biggest risks aren't necessarily from a structure fire spreading to buildings, although that is, as you well know, that is very dangerous. A lot of it from external ignitions into communities as well, which is why FireSmart got so much money and started to build this program, is because BC Wildfire Service understood that this is an issue as well. It's not just from the inside going out, it can be from the outside coming in. So this program is defendable. It's based on the Canadian, the Research Canada, what is it called? The National Research Canada for Canada. They made a WUI guide. It validates this as well. And Chapter 7A of the California Building Code also validates this as well. California is the only place in the world that has wildfire completely built into their building code. You can't rebuild or build anything in California without it being to this wildfire standard now, which is good. But as we saw in Altadena last year, anything built before this code came into effect is still at risk. So everything that's rebuilt in Altadena and Eaton, all those big fires, it will be built wildfire safe now, but it wasn't at that time. This program as well is customizable. This assessment is customizable, and it gives a lot of detail. We can measure these assessments. We can track how far, like how well they're doing, what stage they're in. And really importantly, because it's standardized, it's based in all, like everything we've got in California, everything we've got across the world. Insurance companies genuinely do recognize this. They recognize it in Boulder, in California, in, Boulder, Colorado. Boulder, and then I forget the name. of the place in California, but you can't actually get home insurance without this. No wildfire insurance without one of these in those places. It's called a different name there, but we understanding that insurance companies are getting really concerned here in Canada. We're bringing this on board now. We've tried to bring it in before it gets to a crisis, understanding that one day we might be in a worse position than we are now. We don't want that. So you especially, I'm preaching to the choir here, you know the economic impacts of wildfire, you know the personal impacts of wildfire. So it's not, I don't need to sell this. What we're trying to do is sell the insurance companies on this. And so home ignition zone assessments, they work really well. They're very effective, but they're not this detailed. And when we get to this level of detail, this is when we can genuinely prove to insurance companies, yeah, we took all these steps. Remember, Judy saying that when you try to get insurance for a house, they want to know whether you have a new water heater, whether you have a new, whether they like your stairs, that sort of thing. This breaks it down like this into those small steps. So like we have a new roof, we have better windows, we have, we fix up cracks in our siding. Like we are now building them a checklist to be like, do you see this? This is how much work we've done, which means this is why you should insure us. That's the goal with this program. So the organizational structure, every province and territory in Canada has their own program. Everything out here is called Home Partners Program. We are the only wildfire mitigation program in Canada. And to be perfectly honest, it's because we kept crashing their website. The rest of Canada doesn't have nearly as many communities or assessments going on as we do. So FireSmart Canada couldn't handle the volume of assessments we were doing. So we had to take our program away, build our own website, build our own security protocols and everything in-house, because they just couldn't handle it. So we are about, I'd say at least 5 years ahead of the rest of the country, and that's being pretty generous. But we have a territorial coordinator. So in BC, that would be, oh, for goodness sake, Joel Hamilton. He's our coordinator here in BC. And then you have your local program, which would be probably your FireSmart coordinator. And then you have your wildfire mitigation specialist, and you had a large group of people go through that training recently. So that's sort of how that would level up. This is your home ignition zone assessment. I know you know this, because I know these have been done. And this over here, hard to see, is the wildfire mitigation zone, or wildfire mitigation assessment. And do you see these little circles? There's a lot. Every time you do an assessment, you take a picture and you circle the thing that you would like to draw attention to. It's very, very different. The home ignition zone, you open up the pieces of paper, you do check boxes. Yeah, yes or no answers. With the wildfire mitigation assessment, you get into the details. This is what I would like to fix and why. This is what I would like to fix and why. And so it actually is helpful too for contractors. I don't know, every nation has a different experience with external building contractors, but I know some nations I've spoke to have had pretty poor experiences. And this is a way to hold them accountable as well, because this exact thing needs to be repaired, not everything you want to, right? So that's something as well that is helpful with these assessments. Every community, you can have a dashboard. How many assessments have been done, how many is what level, how they're moving through phases of completion, all of that. So this dashboard is available to the coordinator, and this is what the person doing the assessment creates for the person whose home, the building that they're living in. When you start looking at home ignition zones, you can see a lot of overlap, right? We all know this if you live fairly close. These zones are like 30 meters is roughly 100 feet. It's a long way. So in many places, all these zones overlap, and there's a little bit of confusion about what's the best way to complete all of your fire risk, right? You can't control your neighbor, you can't control what's going on over here. So generally, some people get all tangled up in the fact that in their extended or intermediate zone, they have things that they can't fix. This assessment focuses you back on the things you can fix, on the stuff that is critical, this building here, and then really gives you sort of that suggestions for moving outward, but a refocus, because truly you can't control anything outside of you. So it's best to start where you can. So right here, this is sort of the big map. If your community gets on board with the wildfire mitigation program, they'll show up on the map. And this is mostly for municipalities, but being as this is a collaborative group of people who all live in the same location, you could pop your address in and it'll pop up that you're participating in the program, and you can click the request a assessment button, and then it'll come through on the back end. So in this example, 288 assessments have been requested. 493 are in progress. They've actually gone and started the assessment, or are working through the process of booking the assessment time. 13 are done. This many have been delivered over the course of the program, and 62 are certified. I'm pretty sure this is from the FireSmart BC program right now, because 62 buildings have actually been certified. Oh yeah, there it is, in the province, which is a big deal. To do this assessment, to complete all the recommendations, and to get a certification at the end of it, that is a massive deal. And I understand, as just based off the insurance company's presentation before mine, I understand they're slow on the uptake, but there is nothing in Canada that compares with this. This is the only thing in Canada that's doing what this is doing. And right now it's offered for free in BC. So truly, if they're going to build a reason to insure around anything, it's going to be this program, because this is what's here. And this is what's working. It's backed in science. There's been a lot of homework put into this. So I think it's a very good thing to get on board with, but also it is going to be what's available. It's going to be what they build their systems on, because it's what's here. It's what they can see and participate in and tangibly understand. So yeah, in the province right now of BC, there's approximately almost 10,000 assessments that are done, 600 odd WMS assessors who've been trained, and 176 communities, so First Nation, municipality, regional district, participating. So it's getting bigger. The actual assessment, there's these cool color-coded buttons requested. When you click that button, hey, I'd like an assessment, when it's assigned to a WMS, when they're doing it, when they want it approved, which Joel and Ryan for them, it's wild. Changes requested, if Joel and Ryan are like, not that, then they will send it back to the assessor. Delivered, re-inspection required, completed, and then or certified or canceled. So in this assessment, there's 47 questions, there's photos, there's pre-built comments you can click. And once it's done, and Joel and Ryan say it's okay, it's sent straight back to the person who it's for. I'm sure you probably thought of this. We spend a lot of time thinking about this. It's a little bit hard with band-owned homes to have this assessment go to the people in the house, because generally the band is responsible more or less for the complete upkeep of that structure. So we're trying to make this program more suitable to that type of ownership. I'm not sure, I have no idea how much of that is within Lytton or within the, Lytton First Nation, but within many of the nations I work with, we have to like lightly adapt this program so that the assessments go to the right place and to the people who have the decision-making ability to do these renovations, and also who can access the funds to get it done. Reporting, if you have a CRI or ISK funding stream you're working with, spoiler alert, I can tell you do. The platform allows you to generate a report of assessments. So if you need to report out to your funding body, just click the thing and it'll send you what's been going on. Privacy. This is where it gets boring, but it's kind of important. You can go through, I will let you read this, but what the most important one for me is at the bottom, and that's the storage. And that's because freedom of information requests are really, they're common and they're important to do. But if you were a business and you wanted a leg up on your competition and you knew that there were a bunch of assessments you could access, you might want to request that information, right? So we have made sure that these are not FOIable. Nothing in these assessments can be information requested. We store them with the Fire Chiefs Association of BC. That's a non-governmental organization, and they are the guardians of this, so that it is completely outside of the realm of being accessed by anybody, especially for-profit agencies. We took a lot of care before we started collecting information like this, because it can do really, really good, but like everything in the world, it can also cause harm. And so we've done our best to mitigate any harm in that front. There we go. We don't guarantee when we do these assessments, we don't guarantee anything's going to get done. That's voluntary. Yeah, Joel or Ryan has to sign off on all of them. This was Ryan's presentation. I don't know. And that's it. There are two people in this province that are allowed to say, yeah, this is good to go. What's next? So I'm not sure if you've started your program already, but I'd say your WMS course is a pretty good idea you have. You must be affiliated with a First Nation or local government through employment or contracting agreement to take this training. We don't train the general public. You have to be with a municipality, with a First Nation, with a regional district. You have to be associated with an organization to take this. And then other than that, no hard prerequisites. You guys have had your course. And we, within the Finesse on Reserve funding program, we can offer a full reimbursement for hosting a course or joining a course. But that can also come through the Community Resiliency Investment Grant. Yeah, and when your HIG assessments are done, there's a reimbursement process that's the same for this program. So I don't know how much time I have, so I'll be a little quicker on this one. I just saw Patrick walk there. I don't know how much time I have. The FireSmart Canada Neighborhood Recognition Program. I'm going to give you an overview on this because it's the meat and potatoes and backbone of what BC is doing. But I will also say, we also crashed this site. So we're also making our own. But this is the backbone of what we're building. So this is important to know. And a note before I go too much further, insurance is very aware that the building next to yours will impact yours. Like they know this, and especially what came out of Jasper, with the research and the post-incident analysis there. That's a huge part of what happened in Jasper. So and in Fort McMurray. So we have a lot of evidence that backs this idea that what's next to you affects you. And so we're putting a lot of effort and energy and quite frankly, time and money into building a program where groups of buildings, groups of homes, groups of structures can all work together. And that has a significantly higher interest from insurance companies, because it's not just a single risk, it's actually reducing the risk for everything in that area. So that's why this program is important. So the Canadian, the national recognition program runs like this. One person agrees to take on the work, they're the driver, and then they get together a bunch of friends who form a committee. In my case, it's a strata, maybe not friends, but they have to work together. There's a hazard assessment done, and then that builds a plan. And following the plan is kind of the goal here. Once the plan is made, they get together, the people who are working with them, they share that knowledge of what the plan is and what their hazards are, and then they host neighborhood events. They also do this recognition application where they get recognized. I will go a little bit further on this one. It's really important to get the collective, everyone working together and working towards the same goal. But it was very hard with this system to ensure that work was getting done, right? You don't have to do the work necessarily. It's just you're identifying your risks, getting to know the people who live near to you, in this case, neighbors, hosting events, and then trying to get recognized for that, which is good. That is good. Oh, did I share my sound? Can you hear this?
Yeah. No, we can't hear.
It's pretty though.
Site does really pretty videos. I think I was supposed to share my sound as well. Basically, let me see if there's anything. All right, so this right here, this is a great example of a geographically separate, in this case, it's a neighborhood, right? This would be a clearly defined group of buildings that are together that all have the same risk. It looks like on the top of a hill surrounded by nearly unbroken timber, which is, as we all know, not the ideal spot to be in. So with this, because of that, also the proximity of these homes and how close they're together, they're going to have to work really hard, probably to do some fuel treatment here, but to make sure that each of these homes is protected from the home next to it. And this program, the Wildfire Mitigation Program, focuses on making sure that you identify, remember how they said, those insurance people, is they're talked about exposures? They use that cool acronym, construction, occupation, protection, and exposures. That's the fourth one. The biggest exposure to this home are these homes, right? That's a big danger. So when you look at this and you can harden it against the home next to it, that's what we call, it's kind of like putting on an Iron Man suit for that house. And we want the Iron Man suit to be the strongest on this side and on this side. In Jasper, a bunch of buildings survived because they were protected on the sides that face their neighbors, right? It's quite interesting. So even though we can't see that video, it's a teachable moment. I'm just gonna click through it. Hi, Dave. There we go. There. So I know BCA has a bad name, fair enough. They also don't insure on reserve, which in finesse world is not my favorite. But BCAA is a big sponsor of basically the new neighborhood program. They want to see more money coming towards getting larger numbers of buildings that are nearby cleaned up and sorted out. That's their big interest. And then the cooperators are also a massive supporter of this program. So they're the two ones we're working with now. Finesse is working with Aviva, who came to speak to you. I think we get the better deal, but either way. FireSmart BC. So what do we got here? So this wildfire preparedness day, this comes out every year. It's about a $500 grant to host a community event that talks about getting the community prepared. I'm pretty sure, I can't speak for your coordinator, but I'm pretty sure you guys get this grant very regularly. ICLR also gets money from the cooperators and the NFPA, the National Fire Protection Agency. So cooperators do quite a bit of investing into this program. They're right on board with it. They want their name associated with it, which is quite cool. They have done some good work. And they are now supporting our mitigation program and our new program. This is the neighborhood recognition program, which we have been running. They're also supporting our new program. So cooperators client, if you're eligible for a discount on the wildfire peril premium portion of your home insurance, if you're certified through WMP and or live in a FireSmart recognized neighborhood. So cooperators are paying attention to this program, and they are actively discounting their clients, which is a big deal. I know BCAA offers a $100 rebate on your insurance for getting an assessment, but I don't know that they've committed to an actual discount if you're part of these recognized groups. I will have to go check on that. Oh, there it is. So they do, yeah, they can request a free home assessment. They do get, they're eligible for a BCAA discount, and they do get a $100 rebate for getting it done. So yeah, they're on board, they're coming on board, but it's slow. And because BCAA doesn't insure on reserve at all, yeah, it's always room for improvement, in my opinion. So I've got time for questions if you've got questions. This is not, I'm going to preface this. This is not my program. I'm running all of the programs as the supervisor. This is Dan's baby. Both him and I are train the trainers. We can both run WMS courses. I ain't got time for that. So which is why Dan's basically our lead WMS expert with finesse. And he does a good job. And we're hopeful that the more people get trained, we've come to a point now within finesse, at least, where I actually like seeing chief and council take this course, even if they don't become assessors, even if they never do an assessment. I like seeing them put on these glasses, because once you've taken this training, you don't look at a building the same ever again. You start to like really see what you're looking at and see how we can change and see how we can fix things. So the more uptake there is in this education, the more people can look at the world this way, the safer we will become, because it will change things. In Canada, wildfire is not in the National Building Code at all. Like you can Google it, like just check, search. It's not in there. We don't build for wildfire. We don't build to take in the risks around us. And like, it seems crazy when you look at California, which has had Chapter 7A for a long time. But we're trying to catch up now. We're trying to really push things in a good way. And that's my goal. That's my team's goal. We are happy to answer any questions, but I can tell you that this is one of the steps we can take towards a better, more equitable future. And I can also tell you that the program BC is building is called the Local FireSmart Collective program. It took about 6 or 7 of us 2 days to try and find a synonym for the word neighborhood. It's not easy to find a word that means neighborhood that isn't neighborhood. So we came up with collective. It took us a while. If you come up with a better one right away, I'm going to be upset. But it was with what we wanted to get at. If we said the word community, it wasn't specific enough. We wanted to get at a group of buildings, structures, farms, houses, businesses, whatever it is that is together and working together. So that's what we came up with. And the other thing we're doing, which is public information, we've released it in our press releases, is we're building tiers into our program. Everyone enjoys a good barbecue and getting to know the people who live around them and hanging out. That's all good. But if we don't start changing the environment around us, we will still be at risk to wildfire. So what we did was we created a participation tier where you're just getting to know people, you're just getting ready. And then we started adding tiers above that. And each tier requires more attachment to this wildfire mitigation program, more houses that have been assessed, more work being done to make this community safer. Our goal is to actually create a program that insurance companies are like, and it's already happening, but where insurance companies are like, you're part of this? Sweet. Tick, right? Because at the end of the day, insurance companies need to sell insurance or else they go bankrupt, right? They have to sell it. So completely refusing to sell it at all is not a good business move for them. So they want a reason to be able to sell it to you. And this is the reason we're giving them, is because people are working together to make themselves safer. Happy to take any questions if there are any.
Oh,
Roy.
there's Patrick and Roy, and they're gonna farm wrestle for the mic. Right age go before.
Yeah, Royce Spinks, oh, I guess you're on earlier too, so, yeah. But I'm wondering, like, you said there was, I think it was 63 certified. Could you describe their exposure? Like, were they like a standalone home? Was nobody else within an acre or something like that?
So that's not how you get a WMP assessment. The people who have the easiest time getting a certification are people who have, in this case, I am almost positive they're standalone homes, simply because getting a strata to work together is a nightmare, and I know that because I live in one. But I'm pretty sure they're standalone homes where the person has the authority to make all the decisions for it. But the other thing is, a new build has way better chance, because even though wildfire is not in the building code, they're still building similar to what California has, because they're thinking ahead, right? So I would say those are probably single homes by themselves. They probably have neighbors nearby, but what the house needed to get certified, so like the distance, ground to siding clearance, Class A roof, like multiple pane windows, no cracks in the siding, those sorts of things, I'm pretty sure they are probably new builds because they have all that intact already, nowhere.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, thanks. I want to wrap up and get to Kyle in a second here. I just wanted to think about Mr. Rogers. When you said it's really hard to find a word for the neighborhood, I was thinking Mr. Rogers. But what actually came to mind is that FireSmart is as strong as your weakest link. And that's why John reached deep into her bag of tricks and came up with the name FireSmart Collaborative. Because apparently, Malina and her group stole the word collective. We're in this together. And I think that's the message I'm taking home. So Malina, I want to make sure that we have a chance to get this deck to those people who want it. I believe this is recorded. We'll figure out how to share it somewhere. But it's small print even on the big screen. But I'm not sure. But my big question is, we all know the fire started on CNRs right away. How can we sit down here and backstop and make people who are unable or unwilling to do FireSmart? What is our recourse against people who don't want to do the work?
Public shaming? I know it's a little hard when it's a rail company, but one of the things we are building into this collective program is that you can't cut anyone out. I don't want to see a map that's a full circle except for a little loop at the top, which is Tommy's house, is going to drag everyone down, right?
Thank you.
We are actually making people work together. And one thing that we thought about when we built this out is a touch, just a little bit of public shaming. Because if literally everybody is doing it but you start to look around like, okay, you know, you don't necessarily want to do it, but it's a little uncomfortable if you're not doing it. And so that's what we're doing here. We are trying to change it, like recycling. Like would one of those things where like you throw that can out the window and you're like, like I'm like you think about it a little bit. I'd think about it. So it's we want to get there where this is just something you do. Like this is just the way it is. And then you can hold people accountable because there's a little bit of like, well, we've done our work. What are you doing? We know what's going on over there. Right? You can start taking photos of the bad behavior over there, right? Posting it to Facebook, talking some smack. Like we're trying to slowly change it so that we can have a general community-wide understanding of what risk is and what risk is not. And then we can change our behavior so that we're all safer.
No, I don't know your price. So I think I've either read or seen on some insurance policies that if there's an active wildfire within, I think it's 5 kilometers of your home, that you can actually phone your insurance company and they'll dispatch a crew or people to come out and do mitigation around your homes during an active wildfire within 5 kilometers. Is it part of this program or is this an initiative that the insurance companies are doing?
So what you're talking about is called Wildfire Defense Systems. They are an American company and they come up over the border and they just started in the last 2 years doing this. And as you can imagine, it wasn't like really appreciated at first because no one knew who they were or what they were doing here. But what happened is bigger insurance companies want a better bet. Insurance is just really educated betting. And what they wanted was a better bet. So they paid this company to come in and anything that they insure, they paid them to protect. So if there were 10 houses in a row and one of them's insured by, let's say Aviva, let's say anything like that, that house will get sprinklers on it, but the ones next to it won't, right? So there's some perks to it. There's some perks to them coming in last minute and just tossing stuff off the deck and just cleaning stuff up and throwing some sprinklers up. There is perks. And I know that there has been some buildings that have been saved by that last minute effort. What we're trying to convince insurance companies is that a last minute effort is better than nothing. But pre-planning for a long time is better than just panicking at the last second. So it's not as sexy, but if we can get it pre-planned, which I know you guys are experts at, we're completely reducing that risk. So at that last second, they're not panic cleaning 12 homes. They might only have to panic clean a tiny bit around one, right? Okay, we're okay here. There are certain houses that these fire crews drive up to, take a look at the house, like it's okay, leave. Because it's okay. Like you can't ignite what's not going to burn. Like it doesn't, you can hold a lighter to a rock all day. It's not going to go up. It's not going to go up. That's the way it is. So if you build the house to that standard, then you were already taking that into consideration. And when you retrofit a house to that standard, you're taking it into consideration. So wildfire defense systems, I'm neither here nor there. I know that bringing in that company has cost people more money. It's increased the insurance premiums, but in some cases they don't get to come back to a house. So potato, right? Like I don't have a huge input in it. As a firefighter, if they rolled up to my community, I would want them to play nice with the fire department because we only have so much water. But as long as they're doing that, then I don't know. They're if they bring their own gear, they're making our gear go longer, a little stretch a little further. So it just depends how you feel about it, personally.
Are we good? Are we good? Yeah, no more questions? I have a question. Karen has a question.
George. My name is Keiran Brown and, we live at Alkali and I'm your eternal skeptic. When I say that, I'm referencing, the motion here for, wildfire construction. I don't know if that is the full term that you use. But when I say I'm your skeptic, I say, how effective is wildfire construction? And in terms of that community building, in terms of utilizing wildfire construction, how effective is that? And how would that measure? And you're promoting this from a program in California. And what measures were there utilized to support this measure for safety and security? So that's my question, that's my comment, and good show all my relations.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where if you're not skeptical, you're not paying attention. Because there's no surefire, there's no golden bullet, silver bullet thing. There's just no way to be right 100% of the time. And I know that because in that Jasper report, there's a couple buildings in there that probably, when you looked at them, you're like, that, how did it burn down? So a few people looked at that and they're like, we don't understand how that actually burned up. So there's never a one right answer, and there's no right way. We just know the wrong ways. And ultimately that's what we're doing, is just taking what we know doesn't work and getting as far away from that as we can. And we're just moving the pieces away from that definite no. We know beyond any doubt that a cedar shake roof that is dry will burn, because we know this. That's just a fact. So what we do is we move away from that, right? Okay, well, what's less likely to burn? We'll put that way. And it's the same with our vents, right? Like in venting, okay, well, a house needs to breathe. You have to have it. So how fine a mesh can we have so that the house can move air in and out and breathe properly, but that ember that's coming and being driven in by the wind stops on that mesh, right? How big a hole does that have to be? We call it calories. How much power how fire has, it's measured in calories. So how many calories can get through that mesh that might ignite your insulation, right? We literally base our mesh size based on that count. So it's less of a perfect science and more of an educated move away from a failure that we know. And we're able to measure these failures every time we lose towns, every time we lose structures, every time we lose communities. There's a way for us to grow and better. So we go there and we measure, okay, well, this is like, how do we think this happened? Okay, now let's move away from that. Let's do better over here, change this slightly. Because there's no right way, there's no right answer. There's no way to 100% protect anything, but we can try. And so that's what we do, is just try. And the reason this has come from America and from California specifically is because that's where most of the catastrophic loss has happened. Catastrophic, like, yeah. We learn from our neighbors, and we learn from the people that have the most similar climate to us, basically, as climates change. And so we're trying to stay ahead of it, and they had a program that worked, and so we adopted it. So That's more or less my answer. We don't want to end up like them. We don't want to end up in the situation they're in. So we just move away. Every time something happens, we learn and try to do better. That's all we can do. I hope that answers your question. I appreciate skepticism because you should never believe 100% of what anyone says, but also we just try. That's the best we can do.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharon, for your question. And thank you, Malina, for your information. There's a lot there.
Thanks, Roy.
And Tanya knows some of this stuff a little bit because I recognize from being in FireSmart, she's keeping us moving in that direction.
My name is Keiran Fontaine. I'm an initial attack crew member with BC Wildfire here in Lytton. And today we're just going to go over a quick wildfire season summary of 2025. And I see that it is recording my voice. It's pretty nifty. Okay. Starting off here, we're just looking at the timeline of the fire bans and restrictions we had in place. So from May 16th to October 17th, we put on the Category 3 open burn prohibition. From June 13th to October 17th, we had the Category 2 open burn prohibition. And August 28th to September 29th, we had the Category 1 campfire prohibition. And I was just wondering if anybody is unaware what those categories mean. Everybody's familiar with what Category 2 burning means? That's okay, then we'll just keep going. Prior to a heat wave throughout August and September, BC as a whole received semi-regular rainfall, which kept fuels green, less susceptible to ignitions. And because of that, the Fire Center was able to provide support across the province and even outside of the province. We see the map there. As of June 1st, 2025, we were in the low to very low danger rating range, which is very good. Just the total count of wildfires here. So for the province, we had 1,360 wildfires for a total of 886,331 hectares burned. The Kamloops Fire Center saw 275 of those with a total of 9,574 hectares burned. Getting into the causes here, so 54% of the fires within the center were deemed to be human caused, with 45% being lightning, with 1% being undetermined. All that undetermined means is that it's either an ongoing investigation or there was no conclusive evidence to the side. And I'd just like to note that any fire that starts that isn't a lightning start is considered a human caused fire. Kamloops Fire Center suppressed a total of 90% of wildfires at 5 hectares or less this year. 90% is incredible, and 5 hectares or less is a goal that we're always aiming to achieve. I think in the last 10 years, the Fire Center has an 87% rate of holding fires at 5 hectares or less, which is we're doing the best we can. Here's a breakdown of the Kamloops Fire Center into the different zones. So we have 5 different zones within the Kamloops Fire Center, being the Kamloops, Vernon, Penticton, Merritt, and Lillooet zones. And if you look at the center as a whole, we had 275 wildfires, 26 of which grew beyond the 5 hectares. And if we're looking at our home zone, Lillooet here, we had 14 wildfires, 3 grew bigger than 5 hectares, for a total burnt of 1,722 this year. Here we're just looking at the number of fire starts during May to October actually here. If you see, can you see my cursor? No, that is okay. The dark brown is 2025. And as you can see in July and August, we had quite a few less fire starts than the previous years, mostly due to favorable weather conditions earlier in the year and the consistent rain we got through May and June. This is just looking at the number of lightning strikes and lightning ignitions over the course of May to September this year. As you grow gradual into August here, you peak out in August with around 3,600 strikes. And as the strikes increase, ignitions increase as well. So again, in August, we peaked with about 40 new ignitions in the center. That yellow line there is a 20-year historical average of lightning strikes in the center, just shy of 25,000. This year we had just under 10,000, which also significantly helped reduce the amount of wildfires we had overall this year. I wish you guys could see my cursor, but that's okay. Just to give you guys an idea of all the moving pieces within the center, this is all the resources that were utilized this year. So we had 610 wildland firefighters. Those are ministry firefighters from within the center, from without the or outside of the center, outside of the province, contract crews, and all those boots on the ground. 75 structure protection personnel. That's also ministry structure protection, as well as various structure departments across the province. 1,400 pieces of heavy equipment, as well as operators were utilized, 3 incident management teams, and 66 helicopters. Night vision. Night vision is pretty cool. It's been tested in the past few years, and this year was utilized quite a bit more. As you see, there was 14 detection missions and 22 recon missions this year. All that means is that they were used to observe fire behavior while crews working on the ground at night, just being a lookout for them, and as well as 22 tanking missions in the KFC this season. Tanking missions are active buckets being dropped onto a fire to suppress it. One second, sorry. So anyone unfamiliar with the Rappel program, what Rapid Attack is it's an initial attack crew that essentially rappels out of a helicopter onto a fire. And these fires are usually very remote, hard to access from the road, and they're extremely essential for alpine targets. So in the KFC, they were utilized 13 times and 61 times throughout the province. Something about these numbers is that this is the number of times they responded to wildfires, but they're also very valuable as a medevac resource and also as a heli bucketing resource throughout the province. So this season, the Kamloops Fire Center was able to send support via crews and single resources to California, Manitoba, Ontario, Saskatchewan, Newfoundland, Yukon, and Nova Scotia. Super important that we're supporting each other, both provincially, but also nationally as well. Here at the Lytton Fire Base, we have 3 4-person initial attack crews. These initial attack crews are more local within the zone resources that have to stay prepped all summer long just to deal with new ignitions within the zone. So we respond out of the Lytton base, out of the Lillooet base, and we also have a forward attack base out in Goldbridge. All that forward attack base means is that essentially, if we know a storm cell is coming through the westernmost part of the zone, we can send a crew up there for a week, fully equipped, fully prepared to fight the fire. And if there is a new ignition because of lightning, they're there ready. We have the 22-person unit crew. That's the Lytton Rattlers. The Rattlers are a provincial resource. They're needed throughout the province constantly. So they'll do 2-week deployments, come back, reset for a couple days, and they're constantly out the door. And 3 single resources. These single resources could be response officers or coordinating officers, and they're responsible for the logistics, helping out the guys on the fire line. When we're not on fires or if we're on standby during the summer, we still try to keep active. And so you might have seen some of our project work going on. We have a site at Ski Hiss, we have a site at Nikamin, and we have 1 south and 1 north of the KemchEEn Resort. Basically falling danger trees, cleaning up, piling, and we have been burning the 2 sites north and south of the KemchEEn Resort the last few weeks you might have seen. We assisted in a prescribed burn early in the spring this year, and we're hoping to continue that into the spring of 2026. Really great initiatives we're trying to support local partners with. And throughout the summer, we try to volunteer our time as much as possible. If we have free time, we'll support community events such as the Riverfest, IR18 grand opening. Most recently, we helped move the furniture into the new Legion, and just anything like that. And that kind of wraps up the summer for us most of the time. Thank you for listening to me ramble on here. If you have any questions, I'll direct them to Kyle Parker here. He's more qualified to answer most of them.
I'll ask it. Everybody in town has asked me, like as if I would know, what the wildfire crew was doing down by KemchEEn. So this is something that came out of your local decision-making or something? So that you're basically cleaning that up and then you're gonna walk away and it'll be all better now.
Yeah, so that's so what you're seeing at North and South KemchEEn.
Yeah.
Practice speaking. Is kind of a two-part thing. So one, we're finding all these dead fire kill trees that are out there from the 2021 wildfire, and we're training our new fallers, our existing fallers, on safe practices for solids and stuff like that. So we're gaining a little bit of training out of it, while at the same time we're getting rid of dead diseased trees that are otherwise going to pose maybe a potential hazard for striking someone walking through a trail or something like that. So we're getting rid of kind of a fuel load, but also training our staff as well at the same time. And then with that, we want to make sure we get rid of kind of all the debris that we create. So that's why you'll see a lot of piling, and then us going out and burning those piles as well.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah.
So the staffing levels that you showed for 2025, is that kind of the anticipated staffing levels for 26 as well too, or will there be increases?
There's no increases projected this time, so we're going to maintain the 3 IA crews, the 22-person unit crew, and then the same amount of single resources as well for this time. As we continue to grow, things might change in the future, but right now we've already upped. When I first started, it was only 2 crews for initial attack, so we've upped to the 3-person. It gives crews a bit more rest as well, but it also allows us to put three crews on call throughout the summer, so we have good coverage throughout the zones. I think for now we'll maintain, but we'll always reevaluate.
Or future prescribed burns plan?
Yeah, we're working with our partners right now, through all that kind of stuff. It's quite a long, lengthy process. We're definitely more than willing to go out there and help assist, local bands, First Nations with cultural prescribed fire. Yeah, we're kind of evaluating it right now. We're hoping to get back up to the Green Meadows next year and complete phase 2 of that. But yeah. Okay, no more questions for wildfire. Yeah, thanks. Okay, so yeah, I'm Kyle Parker. So I work for the BC Wildfire Service. I'm a wildfire technician there. But in my free time, I also volunteer with Lytton Fire Rescue. So for those that don't know me, the new fire chief for Lytton Fire Rescue. So lucky me. Yeah, and thankful to be here tonight. Kind of give you guys, it's not necessarily, in line with FireSmart stuff. I'll give you some seasonal fire safety tips and stuff like that. But I really want to just kind of let you guys know what we're about, what we're looking at down the road, things that we've been doing, and kind of just how our organization works a little bit. So this is the very basic organization structure of the fire department. So, as everything, you have to have one supervisor. So we have the fire chief. They're responsible for all the administrative work within the fire department, community safety stuff, and making sure that, responses can be coordinated properly. Underneath them, we have 2 captains. So those are what we call company officers. Probably doesn't mean a lot to you folks, but they're the ones that are in charge of the trucks that go out. So we take a crew, say of 4 firefighters out, they have a captain on there assigned to the truck or a senior firefighter. And they're the ones that typically manage an incident initially until, someone of a higher level training comes out. We have 1 lieutenant as well. Again, they fall in line with the captain. They're kind of more of an experienced officer out there to provide some support. And then we have the 13 firefighters below that make up our department. And those are all exterior operations rated folks. So I'm not really good at making PowerPoints. I type a lot of words. I don't know how to make it look really good and appealing to folks. So please bear with me. But yeah, this is our 2025 community update on behalf of Lytton Fire Rescue. Again, we've had an impactful year within the community. We've shown our dedication and commitment to volunteerism in the community. So far to date, and again, this number is not fully accurate because we haven't reached year end yet, but we responded to 95 calls to service this year in the Lytton area, ranging from anything like critical life-saving medical aid stuff complex motor vehicle accidents with the Trans-Canada and Highway 12. And then we've had a few structure fires as well this year. So as we shift into winter, we're all starting to see the darker days now. The leaves are falling off the trees, the roads are wet. We're firing up our wood stoves, all that kind of stuff. I really want to emphasize that, before we probably all fired up our wood stoves already. It's been a little cold, but just making sure that, our chimneys are properly cleaned, annually cleaned to start up the year before you fire up your stove in the fall. Reason behind that is, we find a lot of times we get quite a lot of calls for chimney fires over the years. And when we're burning, either it's wet wood or different types of wood like ponderosa pine, we find it's really gummy and it produces a lot of resin in there, which creates creosote in the chimney pipe. And creosote, for those that don't know, is a really flammable kind of substance. So a lot of times, if the stove is overfired, it's cooking too hot, we'll see that creosote start to ignite inside the chimney pipe itself. Sounds like a jet engine, and you have yourself a chimney fire. And a lot of times they can be contained to the chimney pipe itself, but the odd time they will progress outside of the chimney pipe into the chimney chase or into the attic space. So we just really want to make sure that we have no chimney fires at all, and just ensure that that chimneys can get properly cleaned prior to using them. And again, the best kind of wood that you can use up there is a nice dry seasoned fir, or the cleanest burning wood. And another lengthy wordy thing. Again, our staff are always training. So, we provide a vast array of kind of responses that we do. We're not strictly just fire. We don't just do structure fires, car fires. We do the whole 9 yards. So that's medical aid. We assist our partners in BC EHS. So when, someone's having a bad day, we'll respond as well. So a lot of times that's makes up most of our calls, as you'll see later in the slides here. Yeah, so our volunteers, again, with all the training and stuff we do, they've conducted over 200 hours of training and preparation for all the different services that we provide to the greater community. Recently, our volunteers also conducted 3 days of public education for the daycare programs, schooling programs, and we even had a fire hall visit in there, which was pretty cool. And we also, being volunteers, we really want to promote volunteerism in the community. So you'll see us out at community events quite a bit, whether it's Riverfest and stuff like that, setting up the trucks, and we always have a fun time spraying kids with water. And another cool little fun fact, early September, we actually took possession of a new fire truck. You guys might have seen through our social media and stuff like that. Not out on the road yet. We're still doing some training and some stuff on it here, but it's going to supplement our fleet a whole lot more. So with this truck, it's a city built truck, so it comes with a lot more capability than what our current fleet does have. One being that the fire pump that's on board of that truck can flow actually a lot more water than our current trucks can, up to 1,750 gallons per minute of water. So you can think about it, it's quite a bit of water. And what that truck is kind of slated to do is supplement our rescue truck on motor vehicle incidents out on the highways within the community. And it's also going to provide our first new engine or a brand new truck, an additional supply of water, more pumping capability, and additional tools on a fire scene. So it's a truck that once it's out rolling around, you'll see it respond quite a bit paired up with our other 2 trucks. So again, not completely accurate because we haven't finished off the year yet. Hopefully the number stays at 95. But on the left-hand side, you'll see these are 2025 call types and the amount of calls that we did for each type. And again, there's some that are missing in there. I have a hard time looking through spreadsheets and counting. But we did 23 motor vehicle incidents so far this year, most of them being on Trans-Canada Highway 1, but a few on Highway 12. We've done 53 medical aid calls, 2 of which have been some form of critical life-saving intervention that we've assisted in or had to provide. We've had 5 landscape fires, and fancy term, it's a grass fire or an early stage wildfire that we can assist with within the fire protection area. We've had 4 motor vehicle fires this year, 1 fire investigation, so just checking out to see if there is in fact a fire on the ground. A couple miscellaneous, 3 structure fires, and then we've had 1 fire burning violation within the municipality of Lytton. We compare that to 2024, which we had 125 calls to service within the greater community, which for us was a really high point. Since COVID, we really saw a decrease in calls, which was really nice. But in 2024, as we see more development within the community, more residents returning back home post-fire, we're starting to see our call volume increase a little bit. So that year, again, 70 medical aids, 3 of those critical life-saving interventions were administered, 22 motor vehicle accidents, commercial fire alarm. We had 3 technical rescues, which is another component of our department, is low angle rope rescue. So anything over an embankment, we now can provide that access to the patient or whatnot over an bank and rope people up and down. 8 landscape fires, 2 public service calls, 3 lines down calls. So anytime a power line falls down on the ground, everyone's advised to call 911. We're typically going to respond to that as well, just for the potential of either a medical event or fire starting off of that. And then we had 4 calls for fire burning violations within the village of Lytton. So again, in 2024, we saw that increase in call volume compared to 2023. It was 51% greater than what we've seen. So when that breaks down for us as volunteers, it was about 2 emergency responses per week. And again, things vary. It's not a planned event that typically happens. So, some weeks we would see 4 responses a week, some weeks none. This year was a great year actually, because we started off January. We went about 4 weeks without a single call, which really good. It actually kind of tricked us a bit, but it was good to see. And again, this year we're starting to see a little bit of a decrease in our call volume compared to last year. Again, the year's not over, but knock on wood, it stays at the number it is right now. So currently right now we're sitting, your numbers person, 1.8 responses per week. I don't know how that breaks out. So we'll say about 1 to 2 responses per week for calls to service for the department. So again, photos, I'm a very photo person. I don't like words and numbers. So this is kind of what we do. So on the picture on the left, it's learning how to extricate the person from a building that's on fire, or they're just stuck in a building. You have to get them out the fastest way possible. For us, that's ladders. So this is us training how to get this is a 200-pound rescue mannequin off the ladder, 2nd story window, which is always a fun time. And then photo on the right is us training on low angle rope rescue. So anytime someone falls down a bank, whether it's 200 feet, 50 feet, whatever, we can't get them to walk up, we can put them in a basket stretcher and we can actually pull them up with rope with relative ease. Picture on the left, that's a rescue truck that came to us a couple years ago now. Again, that's the truck that you'll mostly see out responding in community. So that truck does all medical aid calls, does motor vehicle accidents. It supplements our engines on fires, motor vehicle and structure when possible. So basically the gist of that is it's a mobile warehouse. It's a big toolkit with wheels, which is super helpful to us. Photo on the right is the new addition to the fleet. That's our new Spartan Gladiator pumper. Again, massive pump on that thing. We can pull water out of the river with great ease, actually. Lay over 1,000 feet of supply line to feed other trucks. And it comes with a vast array of tools as well. So a great addition to the fleet as well. And it carries more firefighters as well. So we can take up to 6 firefighters in one vehicle now compared to the 4 to 5 on others. So when we get into the training and development side of Lytton Fire Rescue, we've adopted the BC Exterior Operations level of service. So what that means for us, just because we're more of a remote community, we have a smaller volunteer base of 15, 16 members right now. We can't safely enter a burning building without violating safety codes and stuff like that through the National Fire Protection Association. So we've adopted the exterior level of service for now. All the staff are trained to that, and we're hoping once we gain some more members and some more movement, is we'll start to adopt the interior level of service where we can actually make entry into a burning building, look for any trapped occupants, and extricate them as needed. We have some firefighters though that have gone above and beyond a little bit and expanded their level of training to meet fire and life safety educators. So we can give that public education piece out there. Hazardous materials response. So being a major highway, being Highway 1 and 2 rail lines going through the community, we want to make sure that our volunteers have the adequate training to respond to anything that might come through a crude oil tanker car or anything out there. And then there's some folks that have full service operations for structural firefighting as well. Ongoing training is always auto extrication. It's unfortunate, but we see a lot of motor vehicle accidents on Highway 1 quite a bit. So we take a lot of initiative in training for that. We have some folks taking medical aid training right now, technical rescue training, and then, we're always training for, the hopeful never case that happens, but structure fires. It's always kind of at the forefront there. And then at the beginning of November, we had 7 volunteers actually take part in a weekend training course, 2 days. And now they are certified emergency vehicle pump operators. So we have a lot of great, vast kind of rounded training out there. And again, just another highlight of what our training is. So, a couple years ago, we received a donated CCAN from the Nizamban daycare program. And what we utilize that for is just training our firefighters to experience, what a structure fire is like, how fire behaves, so that they're prepared and they have the tools if ever needed to use out there in the real world. Again, we have a structured training program that we're ensuring operational readiness for the department to provide to the community. And, we're always reevaluating that, changing things as, new regulations come out. And we're making sure that we're ready to respond not this year, but years to come as well. We're predicting that, next year, our volunteer training times will exceed the 200 hours. We want to make sure that we're giving our crews the best amount of knowledge and stuff that they can get. And be prepared for anything that might come. And like always, we're always ready to kind of change and adapt to the ever dynamic kind of situation that is, emergency response and in the fire service. And I'm sure you're happy I'm done. Any questions for Lytton Fire at all, or? Right.
What's your rating on Highway 1?
So Highway 1 in terms of motor vehicle accidents. So right now, we actually cover all the way up to Spence's Bridge and then down to Jackass Flats. That's kind of our broad spectrum right there. But we're working with our partners in Cooks Ferry right now, who are just, recently a recognized department, again, which is awesome. Working with the chief there, we're actually going to start breaking that down in half. So they have a road rescue program similar to ours that'll be implemented pretty soon. And when that happens, is they're going to meet us at the halfway point on Highway 1 from Spence's Bridge to Lytton. So it'll shrink a little bit, but we have some additional partners out there to support us if we need them or they need us.
Highway 12.
Highway 12, Lawlison Creek. That's how far we go up that way. Any more questions? Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you for bearing with me.